9 senior members of the Mongols are on trial in the Hamilton High Court, on a series of drugs and weapons charges following police's Operation Silk. It is one of the biggest criminal trials in recent New Zealand history, and comes more than 2 years after police pounced on the club. The men are from Australia and came into New Zealand had set up Mongols MC New Zealand, within a year. Among those on trial is the Mongols national president, Jim David Thacker, also known as JD, Jack Daniels, the Cap, or El Presidente. The Vice President and Sergeant-at-Arms Hone Ranaki, also known as H1, and Leon the Wolf Huritu, 39. Others on trial are Jason Ross aka 6, Kelly Petrovsky aka Rhino, Matthew Ramsden, Kane Ranaki, and Te Rinati Tarao. Mongols President Jim Thacker, a 501 deportee, landed in September 2018. Thacker originally joined the Bandidos in New Zealand but were depatched after a dispute, so set up the Mongols. Thacker was sentenced to 150 hours community service in Australia in 2014, for rioting, after a fight broke out between Mongols and Bandidos in Broadbeach, Queensland, and was deported in 2018 because of his gang links.
A violent bikie boss involved in a huge brawl on the Gold Coast will be deported. 7 News reporter Amanda Bate joins me now. Amanda, it's part of a crackdown on thugs.
Good morning, Angie. It is. He's one of 191 foreign-born bikies to be sent packing in the past year. His name is Jim David Thacker, and the 28-year-old was born in New Zealand but has been living here on an Australian visa. He was arrested yesterday by Australian Border Force and police, and since arriving in Australia, it's alleged he's been involved in that infamous Broadbeach bikie brawl in 2013. In fact, he pleaded guilty to that, and it's also believed that he is the founding president of the Beenleigh chapter of the Bandidos, but now he's in immigration detention. His Australian visa has been stripped from him as authorities work to have him immediately deported back to New Zealand.
He established chapters of the Mongols in Bay of Plenty and Christchurch and was arrested in June 2019, amid tit-for-tat war, with rival gangs involving arsons and drive-by shootings. A loaded Magnum handgun was found in his car when he was arrested. He was also charged with aggravated robbery of a rival gang member allegedly taking his gang sweatshirt at knife point. Based in the Bay of Plenty, the Mongols set 3 goals for themselves. First one to be Bay of Plenty's biggest club, for which they were on recruitment drive. Second, to establish the best methamphetamine supply chain for users in the Bay of Plenty and Christchurch region. And third, putting established rival clubs like the Mongrel Mob and the Greasy Dogs out of business. The group is defending 118 charges related to drug dealing and supply, firearms, aggravated robbery and money laundering. The Crown alleges they were responsible for the commercial supply of drugs throughout New Zealand and were involved in tit-for-tat shootings with rival clubs, including one in Tauranga, where Mongols members fired 96 rounds of ammunition at a house where children were. The club allegedly obtained, distributed and broke down quantities of drugs and sold them for profit. They used the firearms to service that drug trade. They were regularly in possession of firearms and they weren't afraid to use them to ensure the rival clubs in the Bay of Plenty knew they were in town and knew they were here to stay. They had rapidly established a violent criminal group club and drug enterprise and only came to a halt when police executed Operation Silk in June 2020. Police intercepted communications including phone calls and text messages between December 2019 and May 2020. Police also had an audio device in Thacker's home. Thacker tried to avoid getting his hands dirty by limiting what he primarily did with the drugs, but he directed and controlled his members, including when it came to ordering violent retaliation against Mongrel Mob and Greasy Dog members. Thacker also ran the Bladed and Faded barber shop, but on January 26, 2020, a glass door was smashed and the following night it was burned down in an arson attack. that sparked a shooting of a Mongol mob house in Halcour Street, ordered by Thacker, in which 96 rounds of ammunition were fired at the house. The Mongol mob retaliated with several car loads of members heading to Ronaki's house, where a gangland-type shooting took place. Crown's evidence will also show how the gang's drug pricing worked, with surveillance discussions revealing 10 ounces of P was worth $50,000, and 3 ounces were worth $6,000 each. Operation Silk was wrapped on June 23, 2020, when police executed a series of search warrants and arrests. The trial is before Justice Melanie Harland and a jury of 7 men and 5 women. Trial has been set down for 10 weeks. The 9 defendants are facing a total of 118 charges and there are 241 Crown witnesses.